Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Major Applications Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Eddie Labour, the Committee Chairman. Can I do apologies for absence first, please?
We've had no apologies.
Good. Can I do declarations of interest? I'm going to have some hands now. Right. Councillor Curling?
Item 8 as a trustee of Fassnidge Trust.
And you'll be leaving
I'll be leaving the room, yes.
I will deal with the running order of tonight, but you will discover that item 8 is about to become the last item of the night. I'm reversing 8 and 9 in a minute, because I think there's 2 more hands on the other side. I have a feeling this may be a theme. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's exactly the same here.
And Councillor Yarrow.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 8, Fassnidge Trust.
Right. So we have 3 declarations of interest on item 8 as trustees of the Fassnidge, and therefore that item I will take as the final item of the night to save people coming in and out. It'll just make life more straightforward. We have the minutes of the meeting 29th of March. Does anybody have any queries? 29th of March and the 6th of April. And the 6th of April I definitely wasn't. Oh, hang on. And the 25th. Cool, blimey, I'm catching up. Right. Anybody got any query on any of those? Lovely, thank you very much. The agenda we are considering tonight is the one that was published by the Head of Planning. Apart from the change to the running order that I've just advised, there are no other changes. All items are in Part 1 and 1 has a petition. Okay, welcome to those in the audience tonight. Tonight's meeting is on the Council's YouTube channel. The cameras are directed this way. So those in the audience are not visible apart from if you are addressing us as a petitioner, and for that part of the meeting you will be. Could I ask everybody to remember to speak clearly into their microphones, because otherwise the record doesn't look great when it goes out. We shouldn't have any fire drills tonight if we're not expecting anything, so any fire alarms we'll be taking is real. Fire exits are hidden in this corner and in that corner, and almost certainly it's straight down the big staircase beyond the first set of double doors. Could I ask please all mobile phones are switched off or at least to silent so that we don't get disturbed as the evening runs on. This is a meeting of this committee held in public. The rights to address the committee are as set out in the Council's constitution, as summarised in the committee papers, and as I will indicate now. We have 1 petition item, so that's the only item for which people have the rights to address us. Petitioners have the right to address us for 5 minutes. There are 2 petitions, but essentially they are the same, so the petitioners will have to share their 5 minutes between them. They've already been advised of that by Democratic Services. It's 4 minutes green, 1 amber, and when we get to red, we stop. The applicant or their agent also has the right to address us, although they don't have to, as do ward councillors, although none of the ward councillors for Northwood have indicated that they are planning to do so tonight. Votes tonight. The voting members of committee are, and I'll start down at the far right, it's Councillor Brian Stead, Councillor David Yarrow, Councillor John Morgan, Councillor Henry Higgins, Councillor Ian Edwards, and on my left, Councillor John Oswald, Councillor Janet Duncan, and Councillor Peter Curling. Should they manage to get a tied vote out of all of that lot, I'll have to make up my mind what I think. Other than that, I do not vote. Peter Loveday is our highways engineer tonight. Neil McClellan is presenting tonight. James Roger, the Head of Planning, will offer us advice. We have 2 Democratic Services officers. That's not us doubling up. Luke Taylor is the clerk for tonight, and Liz Penny is just taking notes to understand how this thing works, so that when she does it for real, she'll know how it goes. And Roisin Hogan is our planning lawyer, and hoping for a quiet evening down that end of the table. See what we can find. Okay, I'm going to go straight to item 6, Mount Vernon Hospital, page 17. Neil, will you take us through this one for me?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. This application seeks full planning permission for the construction of a new skin care unit within Mount Vernon Hospital. The site, as shown on this aerial photograph, is currently occupied mostly by a car park. As you can see on this plan, the entire hospital complex is located within the green belt. The plan shows the existing 84-space car park. 6 of these spaces will be relocated elsewhere, and there will therefore be a net loss of 78 spaces. Overall, the hospital will retain 879 spaces, and parking surveys indicate that demand peaks at approximately 750 spaces in the morning, and so there's still plenty of capacity to meet that demand. And this is the floor plan of the proposed building. A single L-shaped modular structure is proposed with an internal floor area of just under 1,200 square metres. And there's another floor plan with different elements of the centre coloured in. A substantial part of the building will have a green roof. This is the roof plan. That area on there and here is green roof. And these are the elevations. You can see it's a simple modular construction, single storey. These are long elevations, so you can see in relation to other existing hospital buildings. This is the recently built treatment centre, and the proposal, it doesn't really come out in this, but there's similar amounts of render and similar detailing. So it does mesh with the existing recent development on the site. And here's a photograph of the car park, which will be the location of the new centre. It's not considered that proposed development would result in a significant increase in the built-up appearance of the site or result in a reduction in the openness of the green belt, having regard to the modest height of the building and the previously developed nature of the site. The car parking arrangements on the wider hospital site will strike the requisite balance between parking restraint and the provision of adequate parking for patients, staff and visitors. It is considered that the scheme satisfactorily addresses all the relevant policy, and the application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions and heads of terms set out in the committee report and as amended in the addendum. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask for a little clarification, if we might, to be absolutely clear on what the parking strategy is. I know it is clear if you read the report long enough, but can we just be clear for everyone here?
So the starting position is there's a net loss of 78 parking spaces, but then you need to refer to condition 12, which sets out precisely the replacement parking strategy and how that would work. So the best way to understand replacement parking strategy is look at condition 12, which refers to 28 spaces that would be reopened prior to occupation, and then an additional 49 spaces that shall only be reopened with agreement of the local planning authority if they are required. So that's the precise details of the parking.
I think that's important because those headline numbers give a slightly misleading impression of what's going on, and could give rise to some unnecessary debates at some point this evening. Okay, on behalf of the petitioners, who is speaking?
We've got Joe Smythe is speaking for the agent on behalf of the Hillingdon Trust,
right.
And then Joan Davis is community based.
Right, okay, so Joan Davis, I understand, is speaking for the petitioners.
And I think Joe Smythe might be as well.
And Joe Smythe, are you joining? Oh, it looks like we've got 3 people moving around now. I know Joan Davis is down is representing Community Voice. Are you representing the hospital?
I am indeed. My name is Joe Smith. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the hospital.
Ah, so might we do this in one petition then?
I'd like to say a couple of words, and then Joan would very much like to say a
That's
couple
fine.
of words. But we
I'm
will
just
do
trying
it
to
well within the 5 minutes, I can
Good.
assure you.
And then if you're all there, we can do all the questions at the same time, which will be helpful.
Great. And Adrian Keel is our planning advisor, is here if there's any technical questions, which is why
Even
he's sitting
better,
outside
just
us.
everybody sits there and then that'll help us. Right, away you go.
So thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I really only wanted to say a few words about the importance of this building to the trust. The current dermatology service is incredibly constricted, and there's significant waiting times for dermatology services now, simply because we can't fit into the physical capacity that we have. This new building will allow us to eliminate those waits and will substantially improve the service for Hillingdon residents. The other thing that this allows us to do is it allows us to repatriate services, tertiary services that are currently provided in central London or out in Oxford. Again, that would save the Hillingdon residents from having to travel into central London or out to Oxford, and it's a big, big improvement in terms of our service. So I'd like to pass over to Joan Davis now.
Thank you. I am Joan Davis. I chair the Community Voice. This is an organisation concerned exclusively with good NHS services. Through our organisation members, that is residents' associations, consumer groups and patient groups, we represent many thousands of local people, and I can assure the committee that support amongst the public is 100% behind this petition. We have a long history of support for skin services on the Mount Vernon site. Back in 1998, 3 of our members were part of the expert advisory group on the plastic surgery public consultation. We were devastated when those services were lost, but we have monitored dermatology in the intervening years, and recently we've been very concerned about the fragmentation of services, the waiting times, and the lack of facilities, and particularly that a quarter of Hillingdon people with skin problems cannot be treated locally. We think that that is quite dreadful. We think it's fantastic that despite an international shortage of dermatologists, the Trust has managed to get together a team of 18 people, including 3 consultants. They're not likely to stay if you don't allow them to have a new skin centre. They'll be off elsewhere where they can be more use. However, my main message to the committee is simply 2 prongs. Firstly, public support, and support both because we'd get better services with the skin centre and because we believe that as it could provide some regional services, it could earn some money for our local hospital, which could be of benefit in other services in the hospital. The second strand is that there's a precedent for this application, because if you approve the current proposals, the skin centre will be built on almost the same site as the plastic surgery centre used to be. So, we urge you, please, give this your blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do members of the committee have any questions regarding the proposal they wish to ask? Any of the 3? No? No? Good. Thank you all very much indeed. That's good. I'll open this one for debate. I think it's going to be quite straightforward. Councillor Higgins, Councillor Edwards.
I'm sure my other colleagues would like to say that I'm full support of this, and I would be going with officer's recommendation.
Good.
Okay.
I'll do the reverse for 1 second. Let me just tease something else out.
Yeah.
Do you have any issues they'd like clarified on this one before we right? Let's just get them out on the table so we understand what they are. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you also to everyone coming to speak on behalf of the hospital. I just wanted to clarify the Greenbelt situation, because it says in the report that the GLA have approved it in effect. But is that through direct consultation with them? It doesn't actually sort of make that very clear. I understand that this is a previously developed site. In other words, it's a car park, it has a hard surface. I didn't know if that was the whole of the site and whether that point had been appreciated by the GLA in their comments, and also are we keeping this wooded copse to the north now as a hard boundary for the green belt, which questions arose from this really.
Do you have reviews taking it?
Yeah, it was formally referred to the GLA, and they did do a full stage 1 report, and they confirmed that they didn't have any problems with it, and actually said they didn't want to have it referred back to them, so we'll be approving it tonight.
Could I just ask now, if I know the whole site is within the green belt, but this now is quite a strong line, isn't it? I mean, before it was partly, there was a car park, it's a bit ambiguous. One couldn't really say it fulfilled a green belt function, but land to the north now definitely does, doesn't it? Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Councillor Oswald?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just one thing really. Page 29, number 11, it says the Wildlife and Countryside Act, and it goes on to say that it is an offence under the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981 to disturb roosting bats, nesting birds and other species, and it goes on a little bit longer. Are we okay on this? That's just a question really, because looking at the plans that I've got here, we are taking another lump of green belt. I'm not against this application, I think it's excellent. And I'm going to support it anyway, but it's just a question.
I think the Head of Planning has an answer.
The Council Sustainability Officer, who covers energy and ecology in his remit, has commented on page 40, and he's happy, subject to a condition that basically asks for bat and bird boxes to be installed. So subject to that condition, I think we're fine.
Queries, Councillor Yarrow, you indicated?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, I too support this application, but I think it needs to be publicly said that there is going to be a problem with car parking, and you put down that you may open the Oliver Scott building. I think you should open it right now, because I go up there every month, and that car park is full, and you can't park, and there's nowhere else to park. If you have to go down to your reserve car parking, you've got a massive 45-degree uphill climb to get to the outpatients department. So all I would say is that we should be considering that we're going to have to create some more car parking when this finally goes ahead.
Councillor Yarrow, that isn't really a question for the applicant, because I wasn't making it for the applicant. No, I know what you were doing. This does come out of the TfL commentary, and the Head of Planning has come up with what is a decent compromise, I think, that we open some of it now, and if the demand shows that they want the rest of it, they come back and ask. Perhaps.
Yeah. I think you've actually summarised exactly what I would say, Chairman.
Oh, I wasn't trying to do that, but there you go. We okay with that? Yeah. Okay. I have a proposer in my... Oh, I've got choice of seconders. You can take either one of the two. I'll probably have a couple more over here if I'd gone that way. All those in favour, please clearly show. That one's approved. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And good luck with the building. Right, item 7, site for former Blue Anchor Public House, Printing House Lane, Hayes, page 57.
Thank you. This application seeks full planning permission for the redevelopment of the site of the former Blue Anchor Public House in Hayes, with a 4-storey office building comprising approximately 1,500 square metres of B1 office floor space. That's an aerial photo of the site. You can see that the pub has already been demolished back in 2013, and the site is currently being used for car sales. The site is located within the Printing House Lane, Blythe Road industrial business area, adjacent to the Grand Union Canal, and on the opposite side, on the other side of the road opposite the site, is the Navnanik Community Centre and the Lake Farm Community Park, which are both in the Greenbelt. As you can see from this site plan, the parking, refuse storage and cycle parking are located in the proposed scheme, are located at ground floor in this Undercroft area. The main public entrance to the building is from Printing House Lane, so you can see that arrow there. A garden area is proposed adjacent to the canal, and that's that green area there. Above this, a further 3 floors of office space. Terraces are proposed at the 2nd floor here, adjacent to the canal, and all around the recessed top floor. A 1.1 metre high glazed safety barrier is proposed around the edge of these terraces. These are the proposed elevations. A contemporary brick building is proposed with large areas of glazing and this curved roof. There's another elevation, and that's the main elevation to Printing House Lane. This is a view of the site with the canal here. That is the site with the cars parked there, and you can see the neighbouring office building in the background. That's a close up of the neighbouring office building. That's the canal. You can see the towpath does run on the site's side of the canal, and we are seeking improvements to the canal side and public realm improvements through the 106. You can see the neighbouring commercial building on the other side of the canal, and that's a roof plan. The development proposals are considered to accord with the relevant policies, and the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions and heads of terms set out in the committee report as amended in the addendum. I'd just like to draw your attention to a slight error in the addendum. Condition 7, where we ask the condition to be amended at 2B to read 20% active and 10% passive. That should be 10% active and 10% passive. That's the correct standard for an office building. So subject to that, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you.
You know. Who wants to start me on this one? Councillor Higgins, then Councillor Duncan.
Maybe, again, I don't really have any issues with it.
You'd be happy to propose officer recommendations?
Okay.
Well, let me just see if... Well,
but there might be some questions.
There may be, I don't know.
I might be jumping the gun.
It's possible. Councillor Duncan, sorry. Nobody else has got their hand moving on this one, so I got to...
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, on the face of it, it's in a industrial business area. It's an office block, but also it looks like it could be very easily converted under prior approval, current legislation, into a block of flats. Particularly as we've got a garden by the canal, which would be a nice selling point. And we're also seeing people looking very relaxed and not at all like workers on these upper balconies and terraces. So I just wonder what the position is if we go ahead and approve this as an office building, and then next week we find out that there's a prior approval.
I'm seeking some guidance on the answer. They may just... Oh no, I can't do that. Not me.
I was just discussing this with Neil, and Neil correctly first said that that this would post-date the current timescales by which you can implement a prior approval, which requires the office building to be completed before 2015. Nonetheless, the government has been regularly updating the legislation.
Rolling.
Therefore, it would probably be prudent to give me delegated authority to add an additional condition.
Thank you very much. Can I ask what the nature of that condition would be?
It would effectively restrict the use of the building to a B1 office use.
And would that override the prior approval?
If there's a condition in
legislation?
place, they'd have to vary the conditions. Effectively, they'd require planning approval.
So under that, we could then look at things like air quality, traffic, the whole environment that it's situated within.
And as long as you're happy, delegate it to me. I will check with the legal officer and make sure we have a watertight.
Yeah, we okay at that end of the table?
So effectively, my understanding would be that the condition is being worded to prevent a prior approval situation.
The lawyer,
well,
the lawyer's just about to give us the benefits of some wisdom.
We can limit permitted rights, and including prior approval, so it has to come back as a planning application. But there is also an Article 4 in process at the moment.
Yes.
But does that pick this one up? Not in place though yet.
Exactly. Well, that was my point. But as long as it gives control back to the local planning authority, then I don't mind. Thank you.
Just to clarify the Article 4, so that's out to consultation till November. So the council, what the process that would be followed is that the council, subject to no Secretary of State referral, would need to confirm it through full council before November, but at the moment we don't yet have a response from the Secretary of State. So if the Secretary of State does actually object, that could mean we can't proceed with the Article 4. So basically the safe position would be to add a condition.
Anybody else have... Are you happy to second?
I'll second the application, Chairman.
Here it goes. Page 123. And this is where we find out whether the the IT works well tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Planning permission is sought for the demolition of the existing industrial buildings and the erection of a mainly residential development. The site is located within the Useley West Drayton Major Town Centre and has an extensive boundary with the Grand Union Canal. There's been a number of recent residential developments on neighbouring sites, as you can see in the aerial photograph here, around the corner onto Horton Road, along this new access road that's been created here. The development will provide 86 flats in 3 blocks, here, here and here, varying in height from 4 to 6 stories, and together with one bedroomed house, 3-bed house here. Sorry, not 1 bedroom, 3-bedroomed house here. Yep. A commercial unit with flexible A1, A2 and A3 use is also proposed on the ground floor here at the junction of Horton Road, the High Street and the Canal Towpath. There will be car parking for 78 cars in the basement and at ground level. The proposed allocation works out to be approximately 0.9 spaces per dwelling, which is slightly less than the existing levels of on-site car parking in nearby developments, but is in line with the provision on Padcroft Works, which is also in West Drayton. Car club lay has also been provided as part of the proposals. The applicant has proposed 9 units as affordable housing, including the 3-bed house, which will be provided as a social rented unit. The affordable element equates to 14% of habitable rooms, and a financial viability appraisal has been submitted by the applicant and has been independently assessed, and the assessor confirms that this is the maximum level of affordable housing that can be provided. I have some visuals of the site here. This is the view from the other side of the canal. That's a view into the site, and that's a view from the bridge. And that's a photo of one of the adjoining developments has already been completed. You can see it's a very similar style and approach. So there's a kind of uniformity of approach to the various developments that are going on down there. There is no land use policy objection to the principle of residential-led developments of the site, given the town centre location, which is in an identified growth area, and with a focus, or will be the focus for future housing development. The proposal provides a regeneration opportunity to improve the character and appearance of the canal side, and will provide an acceptable level of residential amenity for residents in regards to sunlight, daylight, privacy, internal floor space and external amenity space. The application is therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions and heads of terms set out in the committee report and as amended in the addendum. Thank you.
Done. No petition. There is a fair bit in the addendum, but can someone like to take me out on this one? Anybody got any issues? Oh, Councillor Edwards. Yeah.
It is a very minor issue, and that concerns the outlook from a bedroom of one of the flats in Block C. If you look at the floor plan, this is on the proposed
page?
Ground floor, page 214 of the plan pack.
214.
This concerns the flat, the 2-bedroom, 4-person. One of the bedroom window is facing exclusively onto the Otter Way, and that northern wall has some issues such that they're narrow or high-level windows, and it's just whether or not the outlook from those bedrooms is going to be adequate. If you look at the proposed first and third and second floor plans, they've overcome that by extending a sort of a base. I don't know what you would call that in planning terms with the side windows, to get away from that overlooking onto Otter Way.
It's like a Venetian veranda.
Is it a Venetian veranda?
I think so.
Okay.
Neil, you're...
Or Venetian balcony.
Well, there is... there is... If I go back to the... Maybe it's easy to see on the site plan. I'll show you where exactly we're talking about. If I go back... Here we go. So, it's... sorry, can I go... Sorry. Can you see it on there? That's the ground floor. So, it's I think it's the unit at the end there, is that?
No, it's the ones on the north wall that will then be overlooking Ottaway, and the separation distance is 16 metres. And it's talking about having in here narrow and, one would assume, obscure window for the secondary habitable rooms, and high-level kitchen windows to prevent the overlooking. But the bedrooms on that ground floor flat don't have anything. They will have just obscure glazing, one assumes, or will be overlooking.
Sorry, I'll just go back to...
Because they're ground floor windows, we normally wouldn't have an issue, because in terms of ground floor, people could erect a 2-metre boundary fence, for instance. So normally when we deal with these residential developments, it's the first, second, third and fourth that we worry about. So we wouldn't obscure glaze the windows. These would be, the ground floor flats would have clear glazed, and we wouldn't have an issue, because often in a sort of normal residential street scene format, when you have a road in between, we wouldn't normally at ground floor level have a concern with window to window.
Great. What's the detail of the boundary then between the two?
Yeah. Well, we've got a condition the landscape condition requires further details of boundary treatments, so that hasn't been agreed yet, but perhaps we can amend that condition to make it clear that...
It's just dealing with a minor concern. I mean, the scheme, I think, is a good scheme, and it brings great enhancement to that part of Useley, and I'm for it. But if we can tweak or ensure that sufficient address is put on just to protect the amenity of these residents, then it should be considered.
It does look like on the well, we've got boundary and we have got landscaping, haven't we?
You can't really put a 2-metre fence there.
Head of planning is seeming comfortable here, looking at it.
We could add an informative saying that the boundary fence, the height of the boundary fence, I'm not concerned about overlooking. I'd be more concerned about is too high a boundary fence is erected that then blocks the outlook from those two windows. So you could add an informative saying that as part of the landscaping details, we basically don't want a fence that's so high that it adversely impacts on the outlook. There's no reason why they need to have more than 1.2 or 1.4 metre high boundary treatment there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think added informative. I think that covers us. Anybody got anything else on this one, Councillor Duncan?
That was one of the things I was going to ask about. Also, I think if you can have light-coloured boundary treatment or light natural vegetation, that helps to give light into the room as well. What is the distance between Block B and C in terms of windows and overlooking?
While Neil checks it up, I'm aware there was a specific meeting to address all the distances between Block B and Block C that officers had. So I don't know if that gives some reassurance.
And it's closest. It's just under 16 metres, and it's at the pinch point. And we did get them to amend some positions of balconies. You don't see it on this floor plan here. To ensure that there's no minimal direct overlooking between rooms.
I thought that our standard was 21 metres between windows to habitable rooms, and that's what concerned me, because at the closest pinch point you've got windows and a door, it seems, to lounge windows, which are habitable rooms.
The head of planning has an answer. Can we just, or Neil, one of the two is going to give me an answer in a minute. Hang on.
If I can jump in. So I know that the layout was revised to ensure that there's no window-to-window problems with 21. So there's obscure glazed secondary windows where required. So if a room has two different outlooks, there's a clear glazed window that is facing towards a building that's not in breach of 21 metres, and the secondary windows is obscure glazed. So I know that officers went through all of that. What I was just checking is whether we have a condition that rather than just relying on the submitted plans, actually backs that up. Unfortunately, I can't see it. I can't see it. So the only point I would say is I think it would be advisable for delegated authority to give given to me to ensure there's a condition that means that those measures that I know have been introduced to the plan to ensure there's balcony screening, obscure glazing to secondary windows where required, are actually put in place and retained thereafter.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But makes sense.
Neil, I know you've been party to discussions on this.
Yeah. Pardon. These are the obscured glazed windows here. So this room also has an outlook looking that way, and I'll go back to the site plan and show what that means. This is the balcony. It was originally proposed on this side of the building, and we did get it moved around, and it will require a privacy screen on that side to ensure that it's compliant.
Excuse me, it's not that side that I'm talking about. I'll have to get up and show you. I expect this has got two. This hasn't. It's allowed here. This has only got one directly. So if this is 16 metres or whatever, is this what you're saying?
Yeah,
so
at its closest,
that would be obscured glazed and screened, would it? It would be this.
Yes, yeah. Yes, that's correct.
So what I'm saying is the plans have been altered to deal with these matters, but the bolt and braces would be to have a condition, and at the moment the officer report doesn't have that condition, but I feel it should be added.
Thank you. Yes, I feel it should be added too.
Any others, or we done? Done, I think, by the look of it. So one condition to be added, and we'll delegate the head of planning. Are you proposing for me? Thank you. And a second, thank you, Councillor Edwards. And the addendum, and all of the addendum. All those in favour, please clearly show. Thank you, that one's approved. I move back to item 8, Fassnidge Hall. Oh, the room empties. And those who are leaving us will leave us. Some for the evening with their work complete. Okay, we move to item 8, Fassnidge Memorial Hall. This is an amendment to an already agreed scheme, so hence the presentation will be relatively light.
Okay, so
A couple of internal consultees did have slight concerns at the time we published the report. However, since the report's been published, I've had confirmation that issues have been addressed. So there is sufficient space for all the refuse bins. We can confirm that. And also, in terms of the noise issues, the original planning permission that's being implemented on site unfortunately had a noise condition that didn't require to be discharged on commencement. It was at a certain point in the build project. But there has, since this report being published, a meeting with Council's EPU team. They are now happy with all the sound insulation measures, which is quite important because members may note that the one objection to this scheme is from a nearby business on noise grounds, albeit that business is some distance from the application site, I might add.
Councillor Duncan,
Yes.
Councillor Oswald.
I'm pleased with this, and particularly as we get 2 more affordable units as well, which I welcome. So, I'm happy with it.
Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, likewise. Just one thing on page 91, number 5. It's about material submission. I might have missed it in here, but it's about the balconies. And will these be screened off?
There's no requirement for them to be screened in terms of privacy reasons, but they will obviously have a safety barrier, and with details of that will be part of one of the ones we consider as part of the materials package.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Duncan, were you proposing officer recommendations? Very good. Thank you. All those in favour, please clearly show. That one's approved. Thank you very much indeed. About just before 6:45. Thank you very much.